The Catholic Morning Show on Iowa Catholic Radio.
Good morning, one and all. 16 minutes after the hour, and the Catholic Morning Show is grateful to have you. I'm Bo Bonner, your host. Matt Wilkham co-hosting, Ayden Pugh producing. All of us happy you're listening here on Iowa Catholic Radio. In the second half of the show, we'll talk about Mardi Gras and Ash Wednesday, getting you prepared for the Lenten season. Right now, let's turn to our first interview of the day. Stephanie Parks is a high school campus minister, writer, editor, and speaker. Her new book, Michelle Duppong, Hope in the Depths of Suffering, out by Sophia Institute Press. Stephanie, thank you for coming on the Catholic Morning Show.
Thank you for having me, Bo. Happy to be here.
So wonderful to have you indeed. So if people don't know, what is this book about? Who is Michelle? The powerful story that you want to make sure to share with everyone.
Yes, Michelle is she's one of us. She's a woman of our generation who spent a lot of years working in diocesan ministry. She was a focus missionary. She really had a heart for evangelization and helping people know Jesus. And at the age of 30, she was diagnosed with cancer, passed away at age 31 in 2015, and her cause is now open for canonization as of 2022. So a beautiful story of suffering and of love and of evangelization, and really, a potential future saint of our times. She's so inspiring.
So when it comes to choosing to be a part to write this book, to conceive of it and get it to press, what was that like for you as a process of thinking through, how to bring her life, like you said, a life of someone who's contemporaneous with us, one of us, but a saintly life. What was that process like?
Yeah, it was both beautiful and challenging. I got to interview so many people that knew her. I didn't know Michelle personally. I joined Focus as a missionary the year that she passed away. So our times didn't overlap, but I had heard so much about her in my time as a missionary. And then got to interview so many people that knew her. And I think I just was so inspired by the stories that people would share of her humility. She never liked being the center of attention. Sometimes throughout this process, I'd have to laugh. Like, would she want a book about her? She was not one to be about herself. But her light of holiness and the way that she loved people just was so radiant in her life that people just loved to share about her. So I think it's hard to write about something so deep as a cancer journey as she went through. And my co-author and I really worked together to try to figure out, are we representing this well? Are we really portraying Michelle well in some of those mysteries of the faith that are so hard to capture into words, such as how do we suffer alongside Jesus? How do we accept his will for our lives? And yeah, we just really tried to put forth that joy on the page, and I hope we captured it. I hope that comes through. That's what she would want people to know about her, I think, as they read this book.
Now, of course, we want people to go read the book and find out the full details of her life. But if you don't mind, maybe highlighting, what is the shape of a contemporary life that has the capacity for a cause to be risen about it. We think about saints, or we think about people who often we're thinking about, like, are they servant of God? Are they venerable? We're usually thinking of a life that has been over for a while, right? We have to dig into the past. Mm-hmm. What's it like for the living memory of this person? The shape of her life. If you don't mind covering some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of my interviews, people would say, you would look at Michelle before she was diagnosed with cancer, and you would know there was something different about her. There was a holiness, but it wasn't necessarily, people's first thought wasn't, oh my goodness, that's going to be a saint. She was a holy person, but I don't think that was people's first thought. And in a lot of ways, her cancer journey really kind of transformed her. And even her sister has a great quote that she talks about at some point towards the end of Michelle's cancer journey. She's been in bed for 10 months, and her sister looking at her one day and just saying, who are you? Like, I don't even recognize you. You have been, transformed by this illness, but also transformed by grace, which is just a really beautiful thing. And so one of the things that I think Michelle was really good about, and something I think that I have learned a lot from her, is that she was sort of well practiced at receiving little sufferings in her life, accepting the sufferings that came her way, and offering little mortifications for the conversion of souls. She has a great story. When she was a missionary, she was leading a Bible study, and every week all of the girls in her Bible study would draw little mortifications out of a jar, and that would be their kind of mortification for the week that they would offer up for other souls. So, whether it's no cream in your coffee that day or a cold shower or something. And they would offer that up for souls. And so I just was so inspired by years before she got cancer. She was practicing leaning into suffering, offering up suffering for conversions, so that when she got cancer, it was almost like this continuation of that journey. She was well practiced at suffering, becoming an invitation to love, not to become selfish, not to kind of collapse in on herself, but really an opportunity to love. And she was able to live that out in a more full way, and obviously a much more visible way when she got cancer. But I think that's really something that sticks out to me about this holiness, the potential future sanctity recognized by the church in Michelle. She was really practiced at receiving suffering into her life and offering it for people. And that's just a great example for all of us, especially coming into Lent here, coming right up.
Yeah, and exactly that idea of, many times we obviously can look at the lives of the saints that the church, of course, gives us as examples. And even though everyone is human, and so we understand a sort of human connection, there is often times where you go, oh, well, I didn't live like that, or the world was different. But to see someone who has the same sort of day-to-day experience of what it's like to be a Catholic in these times, I'm sure that starts to be a powerful thing to write about, but also to think about the potential of people entering into the possibility that I, too, can follow in these steps, even in difficulties, but they're the difficulties we all potentially face in the here and now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Michelle was so human. There's a couple places in the book where she just talks about, she got overwhelmed by her work, or she, had arguments with her siblings. And it's that seems so modern, but, this tale of holiness is for us as well.
So as a focus missionary yourself, and that's what she shares as well, is this something that people in the Focus Network would hear about Michelle and know about her, and that maybe there's a sort of a way in which Michelle seems to belong to that worldview or that community of the Focus missionary, worldwide?
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle was actually the first Focus missionary to pass from this life. So the first, what we hope, heavenly intercessor for the mission of Focus. She passed away right as I was joining staff. And so I remember my first big national conference as a missionary for Focus. We have one every year. The founder of Focus prayed for Michelle from the stage and invited us all to consider, her intercession of the mission of Focus. And I remember being so struck by that, the first Focus missionary to intercede at the throne of God for this work of evangelization on college campuses. Just so powerful for me. And so, the Lord's ways are so mysterious and fun sometimes that I would get to write about her, 8 years later.
You also see this that, for instance, Bishop David Kagan, the Bishop of the Diocese of Bismarck, he himself also, he has a blurb about this. And, of course, she helped plant the movement at University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota. So, again, that's something people here in Iowa, multiple people have children who are maybe even right now at University of Mary, are alumni and things like this. This starts to be a story that for many of us should sound not only familiar where you go, oh, this is someone who lived in the same times as we did, but this starts to be, an upper, a northern Catholic, middle of the country sort of story. Did you sort of see that as you interviewed people for this book?
Absolutely. I had to laugh a little bit. She was from Bismarck, lived in North Dakota for a lot of her life, ministered there after she was in Focus and while she was going through her cancer treatment. And people just would laugh about how, the Northerners, they're just a little more hardy than the average person. Maybe that's why this ability to suffer well was part of her charism, because those winters up there are no joke for sure. But she lived on a farm life as well. So there's a lot in the book tying in these kind of agrarian themes, planting seeds and seeing things come to fruition. That was really part of her spirituality as well. She was a farm kid through and through, and she loved bringing people back to the farm and giving them a greater appreciation for the Midwest and the hay bales and stargazing at night and all kinds of things. It's awesome.
So, and just so people know, right, this, of course, is her story. You talk to people, but every one of the chapters starts out by including Michelle's words. So this happens to be brief excerpts like, her talks and her writings, but then her podcast, right? And you start to go, wow, this really is a life that is something familiar to us, that the words that you guys are driving, yes, talks and writings, but even something as modern as podcasts start to be the very stuff, as it were, that we're all sharing with the world to enter into her life.
Absolutely. And you can even hear some of those podcasts are taken from excerpts that are still online. You could listen to her voice on Michelle's Cause website. There are a few links there that you can hear her actually speaking these things in person, and just hearing. She had a way of speaking with such passion. You can hear kind of just that passion in her voice as she speaks.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear about that you can go hear someone whose cause is being raised, to Rome, but just to think about that in the future, right? We're more likely to be able to hear the voice of saints. That mesmerizes the mind. Well, before we let you go, anything that you want to make sure people know about the book? One more way to pitch the book, especially like you said, right here before Lent, maybe as something that is right in the wheelhouse of people for Lenten reading.
Absolutely. I highly recommend it for Lent here, entering into suffering. If that's maybe a challenge for readers, how do I suffer well? What does that even mean? Or I find myself a little resistant to that. This is such an accessible story to enter in. And we've also included in the book, there are small group study questions as well. So maybe you want to get a group together for Lent and read this book and talk through it. Michelle did so much of her ministry in small groups, so it's only fitting to invite people to read this in community, have good spiritual conversations with people. The book you can find on the Sophia Press website. I believe it's also here at Divine Treasures as well. Stop by and pick it up, or you can buy it, on a number of online retailers as well.
Absolutely wonderful. The book is Michelle Duppong, Hope in the Depths of Suffering, out with Sophia Press. Stephanie Parks, high school campus minister, writer, editor, and speaker. This is the new book that she helped write. Stephanie, thank you for coming on the Catholic Morning Show.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Listen to the Catholic Morning Show weekdays at 7 a.m. Central on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network, iowacatholicradio.com, or the Iowa Catholic Radio app.